In this video, we'll look at the heart of the Montage M, the performance home screen. We'll see how to get there, how to play a performance, how to test what a performance can do, and how to use the various performance controls. You can access Performance Home at any time from anywhere in the system using the Performance Home button on the control panel or by clicking the Home button in the top left corner of the display. Apart from the name of the current performance, the most obvious and important part of the Performance Home screen is the display of parts that make up the performance. Depending on the view mode, you may see either 8 or 4 parts on screen at any one time. Each part is like a self-contained synthesizer, and parts can be played together or separately. Most of the preset performances use the first 8 parts or fewer, as these parts can be attached to the keyboard control group. I'll get into parts in more detail in the next few videos, but for now I'll leave it at that. When you load a performance, there are a few things to note straight away. The first of these is the state of the ARP and MSEQ buttons, which control whether or not arpeggios and motion sequences are active within the performance. In this Pearly Gates performance, both are lit, so we can expect that both arpeggios and motion sequences are used in some way when we play the performance. If you use the display mode to show the arpeggio controls, you may notice that some parts of the performance have ARP Hold on. This means that the arpeggio will continue to play even after you release the keys. If you want the arpeggio to stop, you can quickly toggle the ARP button off and on again in order to stop playback and be ready to play again when you play the keys. Performances with the M sequence button lit may include parts that are modulated in some way by a motion sequence, which I'll cover in more depth in a later video. To the left of the keyboard are the mod wheel and ribbon controller, which are both commonly used in performances to change the sound in some way. It's always worth moving these around when inspecting a performance to find out what they do. Next to the mod wheel are the Assign 1 and Assign 2 buttons. If these are lit, it means they may have been programmed to affect the performance in some way. Their use varies from performance to performance, so you should always try them out to see how they've been programmed. This particular performance doesn't seem to have them programmed, so let's quickly look at a few others. The assignable buttons sometimes work in a momentary fashion, meaning that they only affect the performance while they're actually held down, such as in this classical guitar performance, where the first switch causes notes to slide, and the second switch plays harmonics. At other times, they may work as latches, so they stay on when you click them, like in this synth performance, where the buttons bring in additional sound elements. Or in this flute, where the Assign 1 button switches the performance from polyphonic mode to monophonic mode, that allows you to play legato notes. Back on our original performance, the next thing to note is the state of the scene buttons. Performances can have up to 8 scenes, and scenes that have been programmed will glow blue. The active scene will always glow more brightly, and you should try out all the scenes in a performance to see what they do. Scenes are extremely powerful tools and can affect many elements of the performance, including the current arpeggio for each part, the function of the super knob, the overall sound mix, which parts respond to the keyboard, and many more. We'll look at how to program scenes in more depth in a future video. The most obvious control on the Montage family of synthesizers is the super knob, and most performances make use of it. It's always a good idea to play around with the super knob to find out how it affects the performance. If you have an expression pedal like the Yamaha FC7 or a more affordable alternative like the M Audio EXP, you can connect it to the foot controller port on the back of the Montage M, and it will default to control the super knob, leaving your hands free to play the keys. Montage M has 8 assignable knobs, and when the knobs are in assign mode, activated by clicking the assign button, each knob can control one or more parameters defined by the performance. Although these assignments can be labelled, most of the preset performances, such as this one, which have been inherited from the classic Montage and the Motif series before it, don't make use of the labels, and instead the knobs just show assigned, leaving you to guess their function. Occasionally I'll go through a performance and add my own labels, and thankfully some of the new performances that ship with Montage M do label their assignments. The super knob functions by controlling any combination of these knobs between preset positions, moving the knob in either direction. Each knob can attach settings to the full left and full right extents of the super knob, and for new Montage M performances, a third setting can be stored for the center position of the knob. The assignable knobs can also control fixed parameters by using the quick edit mode. Here, each knob's function is indicated in the secondary display, and you can use the buttons above the display to select different groups of controls for the knobs, such as the cutoff frequency and resonance of the filter, and when there are multiple pages for a particular section, you can use the page left and right buttons to switch between different pages of each section. The buttons below the faders control which part is selected, either selecting a single part or common, which means that no specific part is selected and the performance itself is being selected. As an alternative to using the part buttons below the faders, you can also click on the performance name to select common, or click on an individual part to select just that. When a specific part is selected, the assignable knobs will control just that part, both in assign and quick edit mode, while if common is selected, you'll be affecting the whole performance. You'll find that the assignment and quick edit options available when single parts are selected are completely different from those presented when you have common selected. The 8 faders, or control sliders as Yamaha calls them, are also multi-purpose. When the lighting under each fader is blue, each fader will control the overall volume of the corresponding part within that performance. On the display, each part shows its own VU meter to give an idea of its sound output level, although if you're colourblind like me, the colours that are in use are exceptionally difficult to see. You can also switch the mode of the faders using the part volume, element operator, oscillator level to control the volume of individual elements, operators or oscillators for the currently selected part. In this mode, the light under the fader will glow green. Do bear in mind that when working with a part using the AWM2 engine, a part may occasionally have more than 8 elements, and the volume of those elements beyond the first 8 can't be adjusted using the control sliders. In the next video, we'll take an in-depth look at all the buttons, knobs and faders on the Montage M control panel, so we have a good understanding of everything they do before we move on to building our own custom performance.